Fred Rogers. The man the whole world admires as an icon of gentleness and compassion. Was he truly the role model we imagine? Throughout his career, he helped millions feel heard, understood, and safe. Yet there is a side of Fred's life that few know about, a hidden corner only those closest to him could truly understand. Before he passed away, Fred's widow shared a deeply personal truth, not a shock or scandal, but a part of his everyday story that he had kept private his entire life. This was not just a startling revelation, but a glimpse into Fred Rogers' private life, something that might change the way we see America's most beloved neighbor. If you find this story interesting, please leave a comment with the number 1. If not, leave a comment with the number 0. Don't forget to like and share the video with your friends, and share your thoughts in the comments below to let us know. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more exciting videos. Now let's begin the story together. It doesn't diminish the values he conveyed through his program, but it certainly makes us see him from a different perspective. What if the most famous children's show in television history wasn't based on flashy graphics or vibrant characters, but instead relied on the power of a man speaking directly to the heart of each child? A simple, gentle program, yet one with the ability to touch deep emotions in every viewer. Let's go back to that familiar neighborhood and explore the gentle revolution that Fred Rogers started from a small show that created a monumental change. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood wasn't just a television program. It was a space where children felt safe, heard, and understood, knowing their emotions truly mattered. It was these simple yet powerful elements that allowed the show to endure for decades and become an irreplaceable icon in the hearts of its audience. Fred Rogers never aspired to become a television star. What he truly longed for was to meet children where they were right in the midst of their strong emotions, small questions, and growing hearts. He didn't try to become famous or create shocking performances. He simply was himself, speaking to children with complete sincerity. And he did so with a calm voice, a deep gaze, and a neighborhood that changed the lives of millions of children. When Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood first aired on PBS in 1968, the show had no flashing lights, quirky characters, or fast-paced, intense stories. It was simple, almost harmless. Fred Rogers would walk through the door, take off his coat, put on his iconic cardigan, change into sneakers, and start singing "Won't You Be My Neighbor?" It felt more like receiving a visit from a trusted friend than watching a television show. Each day, he invited his neighbors in, sharing simple yet deeply humane stories, making children feel like they were a part of a community. Fred didn't just teach children social skills. He imparted profound lessons about friendship, kindness, and how to navigate the complex emotions that children sometimes struggle to understand on their own. His show was a gentle yet powerful revolution, helping shape generations of adults who knew how to love and respect one another. But that's the crux of it. Fred designed his program as an emotional classroom. While other shows taught numbers and the alphabet, Fred helped children navigate their emotions, fear, anger, sadness, joy, providing them with the language to understand what was happening inside them. His show tackled tough topics like divorce, death race, and disability without ever condescending to its audience. Yes, it was a slow-paced show, but it had a deep purpose. The episodes also delved into the quirky neighborhood of make-believe, where puppets like King Friday the 13th, Daniel Tiger, and Lady Elaine Fairchild performed short skits that reflected real-life situations. Fred himself voiced several of the main puppets, each one reflecting a part of his own personality. Over the course of 31 seasons, from 1968 to 2001, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood aired 895 episodes. That's not just impressive, it's unprecedented for a show with such a unique and meaningful mission. But its enduring power wasn't about flashiness, it was about the heart. Fred knew that children didn't need more noise. They needed silence, they needed honesty, and they needed someone who wouldn't treat their problems as if they were just kid stuff. Each episode became a small time capsule of comfort, with no laughter tracks, no loud sound effects, no commercials. Just Fred speaking directly to the camera as if he were speaking directly to you. And for many viewers, especially those who grew up in chaotic homes or felt lost, 30 Minutes with Mr. Rogers felt like the safest part of their day. While the tone of the show was rather subtle, the guest list sometimes brought a bit of noise. Fred invited people from all walks of life, artists, musicians, scientists, and even animals, to sit down and talk, teach, or simply be present. People like Yo-Yo Ma, who showed children how music could express emotions that words could not. Even Julia Child, who brought her charm and love for cooking into Fred's kitchen. LeVar Burton, an advocate for literacy from Reading Rainbow, was another guest. David Copperfield added a touch of magic to the neighborhood, while Tony Bennett brought his smooth voice and genuine warmth. And even Coco the gorilla, who used sign language to talk with Fred, a memorable moment of connection that left viewers in awe. Every guest, whether famous or not, was treated with the same respect and dignity that Fred showed his audience. That was the magic. Everyone mattered. The television industry took notice. Over the years, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood received numerous accolades, including 4 Daytime Emmy Awards recognizing the excellence of the show in children's programming, 55 Emmy nominations demonstrating the program's consistency and lasting impact, the Sin Golden Eagle Award for outstanding educational content such as Let's Talk About Going to the Doctor, and in 1997, Fred was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmys. In his acceptance speech, he asked the crowd to take 10 seconds of silence to think about the people who helped them become who they are. The entire room fell silent. However, it wasn't about the trophies. For Fred, the true reward was knowing that children felt loved and understood. The trophies and awards he received were merely symbols of a greater mission, but the understanding and love he gave to each child were the most precious rewards. Even after the show ended in 2001, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood has continued to live on in the hearts of viewers. Thanks to streaming platforms and YouTube, new generations of children are still discovering his calm voice, gentle wisdom, and warm presence in a cardigan sweater. And shows like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, produced by Fred Rogers. Productions continue his mission with new stories and new characters built on the same foundation of emotional honesty and kindness. Fred once said, "The greatest gift you ever give is your honest self." That is exactly what he gave for more than 3 decades. The messages Fred Rogers shared are never outdated because they are untouched by time or societal change. They live forever in the hearts of those who once experienced his show. So to truly understand Fred Rogers, you have to meet the woman who stood by his side through it all. Their story is quite unexpected. Who was Joanne Rogers? Before the name Mrs. Fred Rogers ever appeared in headlines, Joanne Bird had already written her own story. and it was far from ordinary. Born in 1928 in Jacksonville, Florida, Joanne grew up in a family that valued curiosity music and meaningful conversation. Her parents weren't flashy or wealthy, but they were thoughtful and determined. Her father was a traveling salesman and her mother was a homemaker who kept their household running with love and order. From a young age, Joanne learned how to speak up when it mattered and to listen even more. Music quickly became more than just a hobby for Joanne. It became her language. By the time she was in elementary school, she was making waves as a piano prodigy. She didn't play to impress. She played because it made her feel alive. Classical, jazz, folk, she explored it all. And when she earned a spot at Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida, it was clear she wasn't just following a passion, she was forging a path. At Rollins, Joanne majored in music performance and quickly stood out not just for her technical skill, but for the soul she brought to every piece. Her professors saw it in her. When Joanne and Fred met, they weren't just music lovers, they were creative companions walking the same path. Their relationship was built not only on music, but also on a shared set of values and life goals. Joanne wasn't simply the wife behind Fred. She was an essential part of his mission. She stood by him in both work and life, serving as a steadfast supporter and anchor for Fred throughout all 31 seasons of the show. Their relationship was not just about love, it was a true creative partnership where each brought new ideas, fresh perspectives, and a constant spark of imagination to the other. Joanne didn't just create an artistic space for Fred, she helped him grow in every way, infusing their work with warmth, intimacy, and an endless source of inspiration. Her classmates felt it too. Whether she was performing solo or accompanying others, she had the rare ability to connect and captivate through notes that often spoke louder than words. But Joanne was never someone who sought the spotlight. She never chased fame. What she valued most were people's deep friendships, sincere conversations, and a strong sense of community. She could light up a room with her laughter, but she also knew when to lean in and ask the kind of questions that made you pause. After graduating from college, she went on to study at Florida State University and eventually made her way to Pittsburgh to attend Carnegie Tech, now Carnegie Mellon, where she continued to refine her craft and push herself creatively. This chapter of her life was about growing as a musician, yes, but also about becoming the woman she wanted to be in the world. She gave back too as a teacher. In the 1950s, she taught at the preparatory school of Chatham College's music program, sharing her knowledge and passion with young students. Then in the early 1970s, she spent 4 years teaching at Carlow College. Beyond the classroom, Joanne was also a gifted concert pianist. She performed as part of a piano duo with her longtime friend Janine Morrison, with whom she recorded 2 albums, Duo Piano Favorites, and a Virtuoso Duo Piano Showcase. Even then, Joanne never fit neatly into any mold. She never intended to become someone's wife or companion. She had a vision for her life that involved music independence and the freedom to fully express herself. Whether at the piano or sharing coffee with friends, she carried with her a heart full of warmth, wit, and an unshakable sense of calm. Joanne's contributions to the arts were later recognized and celebrated. In 2019, she received an honorary degree from Duquesne University, recognizing her lifelong dedication to music and education. So when her path finally crossed with someone who shared her depth of character and creativity, it wasn't a coincidence. It was two lives meeting at the right time, the love story behind the legend. It's easy to look at a marriage that lasts for decades and see only the surface matching outfits in photos, a shared home, smiles in public. Yet behind that strong bond lies a deep and meaningful love story, one that transcends time and trials, built not just on love, but also on respect, understanding, and lifelong companionship. But with Fred and Joanne Rogers, the story beneath makes their love remarkable. Their love didn't shout. It began quietly in the hidden corners of a university music hall in Florida. Fred and Joanne first met at Rollins College in the late 1940s. Both were music majors, both deeply devoted to their craft, and both unaware at the time were about to become the most important people in each other's lives. Joanne wasn't one to be easily dazzled. She grew up with music flowing through her veins and a sharp intellect that could cut through pretense. What caught her attention wasn't Fred's charm or his future potential, but the way he listened, truly listened, and how he treated people with a rare gentleness even then. Their relationship blossomed in practice rooms, piano labs, and through shared duets. They weren't a couple built on candlelight and grand gestures. They built something much stronger, a relationship rooted in shared rhythm, intellectual connection, and emotional safety. Yes, they spoke the same musical language, but more importantly, they listened to each other in a way few others could. After college, life didn't exactly roll out the red carpet for their relationship. Fred moved to New York to start his job at NBC, while Joanne stayed behind in Florida. You might think long-distance relationships are tough today, but what about back then? No texts, no FaceTime calls, just pen, paper, and a lot of patience. Yet the letters never stopped. Each envelope carried not only words, but layers of quiet affection, longing, and deep trust. Then came the letter, Fred's proposal. Hidden among updates and affection was the question that would shape both their lives. Joanne was overwhelmed. She rushed to a nearby phone booth to say yes so quickly, in fact, that she almost lost the letter on the way. She kept it safe afterward, and with good reason. That piece of paper was the beginning of something unshakable. They married in 1952 and began what would become over 50 years of marriage. But their marriage wasn't the kind of perfect picture framed on a mantle. It was vibrant, messy, funny, and real. Music remained a central part of their relationship. They often played piano duets together, delighting in the harmonies as well as the occasional mistakes. They shared inside jokes and their own special shorthand. When Fred's work became demanding or the outside world grew noisy, Joanne was his quiet refuge. They had two sons, James and John. Their home life was structured yet warm. Joanne wasn't just the mother of Fred Rogers' children. She was the emotional backbone of the family. She protected his space, made room for his process, and challenged him when necessary. She understood his silences, his routines, and the deeper layers that few ever saw. And perhaps most importantly, she never tried to change him. People often thought of Fred Rogers as a simple man, kind, yes, but also uncomplicated. Yet those who truly knew him, especially Joanne, understood he had many layers. Fred was not just the gentle, lovable man everyone saw on TV. He was a person with emotional depth, complex thoughts and feelings that only those close to him could fully grasp. He carried the weight of others' pain and deeply worried about doing enough, being enough. Joanne was the only one who truly understood that. She held his complexity without fear and allowed him to be both gentle and imperfect. Even as Fred became a beloved public figure, their marriage remained strong. They didn't live for applause or attention. If you found this story meaningful and want to learn more, don't forget to like, share the video, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe so you won't miss more captivating videos. Now, let's continue the story together. They lived mornings filled with music, laughter, ringing through everyday moments, and a friendship built on understanding and enduring love. What they shared wasn't a fairy tale, and that's exactly what made it beautiful. Behind the legend was a love story forged through effort, respect, and an unbreakable bond. Long days working side by side, evenings spent together sharing worries and secrets. This was a real relationship, not an image crafted from perfection, but one grounded in sincerity, empathy, and unspoken connection. And while the world saw Mr. Rogers as a gentle icon in his cardigan sweater, Joanne knew the man behind the camera. She saw his worries, his fears, his discipline. She knew what the world didn't, and she held those parts sacred. She understood the moments when Fred needed to be heard, the silent comfort he sought, and the days he grew weary of all the demands and responsibilities he carried. And perhaps, just perhaps, that's the true magic in their story. Not that it was perfect, but that it was real, and they chose it time and time again for over 5 decades. When the cameras were rolling, he was the neighbor we all admired. But when the lights dimmed, another Fred quietly emerged, the public figure versus the private man. When you hear the name Fred Rogers, what image comes to mind first? Perhaps it's a calm man in a soft cardigan sweater tying his shoes and speaking directly to you as if you mattered more than anything else in the world. His voice was slow and steady like a lullaby. His words brought a sense of safety. For many, Fred was more than a television host. He was a comforting voice in childhood, a gentle guide through difficult emotions. For years, people believed that what they saw on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was the real Fred, unacted and unfiltered. And for the most part, that was true. Fred Rogers lived what he taught. He believed in kindness and practiced it daily, even when no cameras were rolling. Friends and colleagues supported this time and time again. But what makes his story even more powerful isn't how perfect he was, but how imperfect he truly was. Joanne Rogers, Fred's wife for over 50 years, once said that although her husband was genuinely kind, as everyone said, he wasn't a saint. Not in the sugar-coated, untouchable way people sometimes imagine. She knew the real man, the one who got tired, sometimes struggled, and dealt with stress and doubt just like the rest of us. According to her, kindness is sincere, but requires effort. Fred chose to be kind. He worked at it. There's something deeply honest about that. On the surface, Fred appeared effortlessly calm, but inside, a humble discipline shaped every move. He kept routines like swimming every morning and weighing himself daily to maintain his weight at 143 pounds. That number meant something to him: 1 letter for I, 4 letters for love, 3 letters for you. A small ritual with a big message. But living up to that image, the idea of always being gentle, always thoughtful, came with pressure. After all, millions of children admired him. He didn't want to disappoint them. That responsibility weighed on him more than most people knew. And though he never complained about it in public, Joanne saw its impact on him. She witnessed his tired days and moments of self-doubt. She also saw the times when their marriage faced its own challenges. Like any long-term relationship, theirs had its ups and downs. Joanne mentioned that she was often the disciplinarian when it came to their two sons. Fred was always the gentle one, and sometimes found that role more challenging. It wasn't always easy, nor did it always feel balanced. His work was also deeply personal to him. He poured his heart and soul into it. Sometimes that emotional investment could lead to exhaustion, not just for the person doing the work, but also for the family around them. Fred's mission was beautiful, but it came with immense responsibility. And sometimes that meant Joanne had to be the anchor while he carried the emotional weight of an entire generation. What's compelling is how deeply human all of this truly was. We often like to uplift people, call them heroes, and hope they never stumble. But Fred didn't live in that fantasy. He lived in reality where he needed rest, made mistakes, and relied on others when things got heavy. Joanne helped us see that side of him, not to diminish him, but to make his kindness more meaningful. Fred felt deeply. He cared for others, and sometimes that made him sensitive. That's what made Fred special. He chose patience. He chose gentleness. He chose to believe in the good even when he had every reason to be disappointed. And that choice, the daily decision to live with love, that's what transformed a quiet man in a cardigan into a lasting legacy. But behind that calmness and kindness, there's a terrible truth that Joanne Rogers didn't hesitate to share, something that adds a new layer to how we truly understand Fred. When you hear the phrase terrible truth, your mind might jump to something shocking or scandalous, but what Joanne Rogers revealed about Fred is not some wild secret. It's something much more subtle and real, a kind of truth that's often harder to share because it's wrapped in pain, vulnerability, and quiet strength. Fred Rogers was a man known for his calmness, warmth, and kindness, but as his wife Joanne witnessed parts of his life that few ever saw. His final days were marked by a battle with stomach cancer, not just a physical fight, but also an emotional and spiritual journey for them both. In these moments away from the camera lenses and the public eye, the terrible truth began to reveal itself, not as failure or disgrace, but as the very human struggles behind this beloved figure. Joanne spoke candidly about how Fred faced his illness with courage, but it also illuminated the moments of loneliness and doubt that were never part of his public persona. Even a gentle and patient man like Fred had private battles, times when he felt alone, moments of questioning everything around him, moments only Joanne truly understood and shared with him. This does not diminish the respect we have for Fred. On the contrary, it makes him more relatable and endearing. Each time he faced pain and hardship, he demonstrated even more clearly why he was a model of patience and unconditional love. Joanne helped him maintain balance in life, serving as his anchor when things became overwhelming. We may admire him for what he showed to the public, but it was Joanne who truly kept Fred standing and enabled him to continue his mission throughout all those years. With resilience and boundless love, Joanne was not just a wife, but a true life partner, someone who shared not only joyful moments, but also stood by Fred during the most difficult times of his life. It is through this understanding and love that they overcame all challenges together, building a happy family and a lasting legacy in the hearts of many. Fred's illness came as a surprise. At first, he only experienced discomfort and indigestion symptoms easily overlooked or explained away. Joanne recalls how he quietly tried to manage the pain on his own being, careful with what he ate, and patiently enduring the growing discomfort. But when the pain became unbearable, they finally sought answers. The news was hard to bear. The cancer had metastasized, and the prognosis was bleak. The long days of treatment, the physical pain, and the growing awareness that time was running out created a space where Fred's usual certainty gave way to vulnerability. This man kept moving forward, determined to stay involved with the things and people he loved. In January 2003, just weeks before his passing, he even appeared as the Grand Marshal of the Rose Parade in Pasadena. It was a brief, bright moment during a difficult time, showing how much he cared about his commitments and the world around him. After undergoing surgery to remove part of his stomach, Fred spent some time in the hospital before returning home. Joanne recalled how playing the piano brought him moments of peace and comfort even as his body grew weak. He quietly passed away at home on February 27, 2003, surrounded by family just one day after his grandson's birthday. For many years, Joanne remained silent about these details, partly out of respect for Fred's privacy and the image he had cultivated over decades. But over time, Joanne realized that hiding this side of Fred was unfair, both to his story and to those who loved him. By sharing the truth, she believes she can honor him in a deeper, more honest way. One of the most touching parts of Joanne's reflections is how the cancer affected their relationship. Fred had long been the strong, loving pillar of their family, but the illness shifted the dynamics. Joanne took on the role of caregiver, which brought its own unique challenges and emotional weight. She described the feeling of boundless love mixed with stress as she watched a man full of life face such a difficult battle. There were moments when the man she deeply admired was also the one needing care patience, and sometimes just her presence to hold space for his pain. Fred, who had always been a source of encouragement and light in everyone's lives, now needed help from the very wife he loved. For Joanne, nothing was more painful than seeing the person she loved struggle with physical pain. Yet she bravely embraced this role, helping Fred through his final months with loving and devoted care. These moments not only deepened their bond, but also revealed the strength of true love where both are willing to sacrifice for one another. In recent interviews and documentaries, such as the acclaimed film Won't You Be My Neighbor, Joanne has opened the door to lesser-known stories about Fred's final years. For example, she shared how he maintained his sense of humor even during the toughest moments. Fred's ability to find light in the darkness didn't disappear with his illness. It simply transformed, revealing another inspiring side of him. In the days before he passed away, Joanne recalled in an interview, "I told him, you know we'll be okay. We'll be okay. The boys will be okay, and I will try to be okay." So when he left, I could feel that he left peacefully and even happily. Joanne's decision to share these experiences comes from love and protection. She understands the weight of Fred's legacy and how people see him as a beacon of kindness and hope. Exactly 2 years after his passing, she said it would be wonderful if we could tell ourselves, "Okay, you have grieved. Your time to grieve is over. Now it's time for you to move on." But for me, it's not like that. There are days when I feel full of energy. There are days when I feel exhausted. Grief can be very tiring. Joanne's reflections invite us to see Fred Rogers not as a distant icon, but as a man, just like all of us, struggling with pain and uncertainty. Yet through it all, he chose to live with kindness and honesty until the very end. And that makes this truth not tragic in a sorrowful sense, but powerful. Even after Fred passed away, Joanne did not close the book. Instead, she turned the page, and what happened next surprised many. Joanne Rogers' role in preserving and advancing Fred's legacy was unexpected. When Fred Rogers died in 2003, many anticipated that Joanne would step back quietly into mourning. But she chose a different path. Rather than living in deep sorrow, Joanne decided to carry on the work Fred had begun protecting and promoting the legacy he built throughout his life. Joanne understood that Fred's legacy was more than just the image of a gentle man in a cardigan sweater. It was an invitation for everyone to live with kindness, sincerity, and patience. She carried on Fred's work, sharing lessons of compassion, unconditional love, and perseverance through new platforms so that new generations could continue to learn from and feel his impact. This was not only about preserving Fred's legacy, but also Joanne's way of honoring her husband not only in life, but also in the lifelong work to which he devoted himself. Instead of fading into obscurity, she became a steadfast force maintaining Fred's message. For over 50 years, they shared a life filled with kindness and purpose, and Joanne made sure that spirit did not vanish with him. Joanne didn't just hold a title. She truly took the reins as the honorary chairperson of Fred Rogers Productions, the very company Fred founded to create his beloved programs. As the world around media changed rapidly, she made sure that the heart of Fred's work remained strong. The programs continued to teach children about emotions, friendship, and understanding without losing their gentle, thoughtful tone. Joanne's leadership ensured that Fred's vision wasn't just a memory. Instead, it continued to grow and reach new families, creating opportunities for future generations to learn from and feel the values Fred had so carefully woven into his work. Joanne also stepped into the spotlight. She shared stories about Fred's life and ideas on television and at events, always reminding people why kindness matters. Her voice carried Fred's lessons far beyond the original reach of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, showing just how important it is for children to understand their emotions and the world around them. These are timeless values that never grow old or outdated. Joanne didn't just protect Fred's legacy behind the scenes, she was out there making sure his message stayed alive and meaningful in the modern world. If you watch the 2019 film A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, you might have noticed that Joanne made a small but memorable cameo. That guest appearance wasn't just a casting detail, it was her way of stepping in and sharing a piece of their life together. The film offered audiences a glimpse of the woman who knew Fred best, adding a truly personal touch to the story on screen. While Fred was a public figure celebrated for his kindness and patience, Joanne brought a deeper perspective to what happened behind the scenes, the quiet, meaningful moments that few ever saw. Beyond the film, Joanne also appeared in documentaries and interviews, giving people the chance to hear directly from the woman who shared her life with Fred every single day. Her reflections didn't just highlight Fred's kindness, they pulled back the curtain on the special bond and deep love they shared. She never hesitated to speak openly about the real moments of their life together, the struggles, the challenges, and the quiet joys they experienced side by side. These insights offered fans a more complete picture of Fred, not just as a beloved television figure, but as a real person, someone who carried worries, vulnerabilities, but also immense love and resilience. Joanne's work was never just about highlighting Fred's kindness. Her own love for music was also a vital part of her story. She dedicated her entire life to music, not only as a means of emotional expression, but as a way to communicate understanding and love to the world. She continued to protect and expand upon the values that she and Fred built together, not just for themselves, but for all those searching for a light in a challenging world. Joanne knew that Fred's legacy wasn't just a story from the past. It was a flame one that needed to be nurtured and passed on so it could keep shining for generations to come. She wasn't just by Fred's side, she helped carry and continue his mission with quiet determination, protecting the values they built together. Joanne wasn't just a wife. She was Fred's true companion on the journey of life, someone who deeply understood and loved him with unwavering sincerity. And after Fred passed, Joanne kept living and working by those same values, not only to honor his legacy, but to prove that kindness and unconditional love are things the world should never forget. As a gifted concert pianist, Joanne brought her own creativity and warmth into the world. Her music connected people in the same way Fred's words did, reminding us all that art and kindness often walk hand in hand. Those who knew Joanne often spoke of her sharp wit and down-to-earth wisdom traits that perfectly complemented Fred's gentleness and made her the ideal partner in preserving his spirit. Joanne was truly special, someone with a realistic view of the world and a heart full of compassion. She didn't just love music, she saw beauty in the simple things, just as Fred taught the world to do. She knew that sometimes just listening and sharing a small, quiet moment could change someone's entire day. When Fred Rogers passed away in 2003, the messages he left behind continued to echo softly across the world he so dearly loved, and none more powerfully than the simple, mysterious code he held close to his heart. If you ever asked Fred Rogers what love looked like, he might have answered with 3 small numbers, 143. Remember when we talked about that earlier? It wasn't random. It wasn't a trend. The number 143 became a symbol of how he lived and how he expressed love in every action. It wasn't just a code, it was Fred's quiet way of sharing his message of kindness and unconditional love, the very message he chose to embody every single day of his life. To Fred, 143 meant, I love you 1 letter in, I 4 in love, and 3 in you. Simple, elegant, and powerful. It's the kind of message you don't shout, you live it. And that's exactly what he did. Fred didn't just talk about love. He wove it into the fabric of his everyday life. He even maintained his weight at exactly 143 pounds for most of his adult life. It's rare to see someone take a symbolic number and build their life around it, but Fred did so with quiet persistence, making it both iconic and deeply meaningful. Fred was intentional in every step, every word, every pause between sentences. And that number didn't stop with him. In 2019, Pennsylvania, his home state, decided to honor his legacy in a way Fred would have found perfect. They officially designated May 23rd as 143 Day because it's the 143rd day of the year. The idea is to do something kind, say something thoughtful, be a good neighbor. It's a way for the people of Pennsylvania and everyone around the world to remember Fred and practice the values he lived by throughout his life. It's not just a holiday, it's a reminder for us all to live with kindness and compassion. Joanne later passed away on January 14, 2021, at the age of 92 in their home in Pittsburgh. She was surrounded by loved ones just as Fred would have wanted. She is survived by their 2 sons and a legacy as sincere and enduring as Fred's. Joanne was not only a wife but a true life partner, a steadfast support during the times Fred needed comfort and care. She didn't just maintain Fred's values, she revived them in every day, every action, and every word. She was not only a part of Fred's legacy, but continued it in her own way, bringing messages of kindness and patience to future generations. Fred and Joanne never sought the spotlight. They didn't need to. They believed that love is calm, consistent, and transformative. And sometimes saying "I love you" only takes 3 numbers. That was one of the greatest lessons Fred left behind. Love doesn't need to be flashy. It can be simple, gentle, yet incredibly powerful. When Fred passed away, Joanne continued to live by the lessons they built together throughout their lives. So now that Joanne Rogers has broken her silence, could it be that behind Fred Rogers' gentle smile there was a terrible truth he quietly carried to the grave, and the world chose to ignore it? The story of Fred and Joanne is not just about a television legend, but about love, sacrifice, and the hardships they faced together. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. To watch more videos like this, click on the next video on your screen. Do you find this story interesting? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below and let us know. Don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exciting videos. Thank you for watching until the end, and we'll see you in the next videos.